Hello everybody, my name is Caitlin and welcome to my channel where I talk about all things horror, and today I'm talking about Halloween Ends. This isn't going to be a review. I'm sure most of you watching this have already seen Halloween Ends. This is really more me coming on and just giving my thoughts and actually kind of defending the film a little bit. Please keep in mind that there will be spoilers throughout this video. I've been seeing a lot of hate online for Halloween Ends, and while I do understand the criticisms, I actually think that this film is the best in this new trilogy. And I can't believe I'm the one that's defending Halloween Ends, because I thought for sure I was going to hate this film. I walked into it already prepared to be disappointed by it. I have to be honest and say that I've not been the biggest fan of these David Gordon Green, Blumhouse Halloween films that have been coming out. I thought the first one in 2018 was okay, had some good moments here and there, but overall I just found a lot of the storytelling and the filmmaking to be kind of clunky. The 2018 Halloween didn't do much for me, and I absolutely hated with a passion Halloween Kills. So I went into Halloween Ends thinking, yep, I'm going to hate this film. I was seeing the early reviews coming in and it was not looking positive. I was actually surprised that when the film ended, I didn't feel angry about it. Well, I did feel angry, but I think my anger was more out of me enjoying the film a lot more than I was anticipating. In many ways, Halloween Ends is what I was hoping that they were going to do in Halloween 2018. I know people are angry that the film doesn't really have Michael Myers in it. Personally, for me, I really liked that they went with a different direction. One of the things that actually bothers me about these new Halloween movies is that they put so much emphasis on the Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode story. They made a whole big deal about when 2018 was released that they were wiping the slate clean, that all of the previous sequels and prequels and reboots up to that point didn't matter, it was not part of the timeline anymore, and that they really wanted to get away from what was set up in the original sequel with Michael and Laurie being brother and sister. Yet despite retconning that backstory, all of Halloween 2018 revolved around Michael Myers going after Laurie Strode again. And it was kind of like, well, what's the point of rebooting this and saying that you're going to do something new when you actually just end up doing the exact same thing over and over again? All that being said, I really liked what they did with the character of Corey. I've been seeing a lot of criticism that one film isn't enough to tell Corey's story. Like, if they were going to introduce this character, they needed to do it in Halloween 2018. And while I agree that this story would have been a better way to start off this new trilogy, I don't necessarily think it needed to be dragged out for 3 films. I think they could have done a lot better character development in this film. Unfortunately, Halloween Ends suffers from the same problem as the first 2 films, and that it just has really clunky storytelling. I understand that they wrote themselves into a corner with the first 2 films and they had to acknowledge stuff that happened in the previous films, but there were other aspects of the story, like the whole thing with Allison and that weird cop boyfriend of hers and the strange love triangle between the cop and Corey. Like, I didn't need that. Why was that in the film? The time they took for all of that nonsense, they could have spent really developing Corey. And I think they could have done a solid story with him in one film had they not had to worry about going off in all these other different directions because of what they set up in the previous 2 films. But again, I really liked his character. I really love the theme that they set up around him, right? This idea that Michael Myers isn't around, nobody knows where he is, and so Haddonfield needs a new boogeyman. And they just latch onto Corey because of this tragic accident that he was involved with in Halloween Night 2019. This idea of substituting one boogeyman for another feels very true to humanity, especially today. I feel like we see a lot of that on like social media and politics. And I feel like that theme and that idea actually does a better job of commenting on mob mentality than whatever it is that they were trying to do in Halloween Kills. Another thing that I loved about this film is the way that they treated Laurie's character. Out of all of the new films, this is the only one where I actually felt like Laurie was a real character and I actually enjoyed spending time with her as an audience member. I was never really into the whole Sarah Connor, Terminator Laurie that they set up in the 2018 version. To me, her character just felt so over the top. Her grief wasn't believable. The trauma that she was going through didn't feel believable. Halloween Ends feels like the first time that we finally got to see glimpses of original Laurie from 1979. And I may be biased because I will say Laurie was my first final girl when I was first starting getting into horror. Halloween was one of the first ones that I saw. She's always been a personal hero of mine. And so it felt nice to have some scenes with her where she was a bit more mellow, she was a bit more grounded, her trauma and recovery felt much more real. My favorite scenes in this film are with her and Will Patton's character from the second film. I love that scene when they're in the grocery store together and she's just being very flirty with him. Like, it was fun. It was cute to see. I've seen some people commenting this online and I definitely agree that that scene really represents Laurie getting to be the teenager that she wasn't able to be in the original Halloween. And again, it just feels nice to have these quiet moments with her where she is genuinely happy and is genuinely loving life. I know some people don't find her transition from the 2018 film to this one that believable, and I can agree with that. Again, I wish that they hadn't started her off so intense in Halloween 2018. Because yes, it is a big leap to believe that, okay, she suffered this trauma in 1979 and has never been able to get over it, and she's in like Terminator mode, and she's booby-trapped her entire house and is just waiting for Michael Myers. And then he comes back and kills her daughter and a bunch of people in town. And then 4 years after that, she's just like, yep, I'm gonna let all that go. I'm gonna write my memoir. I'm gonna be okay again. It's not that she started off being traumatized and ruled by fear and then decided to let that go in this film. Like, I can understand that, right? This idea of someone who's constantly living in fear, and then they just get to a point where they realize that living in fear is only causing things to go bad in their life. So I can understand her wanting to let that go and finally heal. Again, I think the problem is that they just went so intense and so over the top in the 2018 version. I noticed in the credits for this film that they brought on 2 new writers, and you can definitely tell because overall this story in Halloween Ends just feels way more grounded and way more down to earth than anything in the previous 2 films. That being said, as I already mentioned, it does suffer from very clunky storytelling. You still have the really bad, like, Danny McBride one-liners throughout the film that just kind of take you out of the scene. And my biggest issues with the film are actually all of the scenes with Michael Myers in them. I know not everybody feels this way, but I personally could have just done without Michael Myers in this story. I thought the way that they set it up that it was actually going to be Corey the whole time, right? That they were going to make you think that Michael Myers was there, that he was talking with Michael Myers, and then the twist at the end being that no, that was just in his head the entire time and it was just Corey going on a rampage. That is not what they did. Michael Myers is there throughout the film, and of course the final battle reverts back to him and Laurie going after each other. To me, the ending just felt like a cop-out. I know that they needed to end the Michael Myers story. I know that they wanted to end it in this very grand way to please the fans. But again, I just found the storyline with Corey way more interesting than anything with Michael Myers. So I'm probably one of the few fans that was actually annoyed when he showed up during Halloween Ends. And I really hated the ending of this film. I hated the whole thing where they have him on top of the car and the whole town is there and they're going through Haddonfield, like this procession. Again, I get what they were going for with the whole town of Haddonfield, finally putting an end to this guy, finally putting behind all of this trauma. But it just didn't work for me personally. I just found it kind of goofy. So while this film has its problems, it's definitely the one out of the 3 new films that I like the best. I'm sure that this is not the last Halloween film. In fact, I'm pretty sure Blumhouse has already hinted that there will be more. Again, for me, Michael Myers and Laurie Strode and that whole story just feels tired at this point, and I would really love to see something else, something new on screen. My second favorite Halloween movie after the original 1979 film is actually Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. which does not have Michael Myers in it at all. It's a completely separate universe. And I know the original creators, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, they had a whole plan for the Halloween franchise where they didn't want to just do endless sequels with Michael Myers, but they actually wanted to tell all these different kinds of stories that took place on Halloween night. I've always loved that idea, and I've always been so bummed that we never got that anthology series. John Carpenter has released a series of comic books called Tales of Halloween Night through his Dark Horse publishing company. And I love these comics because it's just different stories that take place on Halloween, Halloween Eve, Samhain. Personally, I would love to see these stories on the screen one day. If or when they do make more Halloween films, I do hope that they kind of go with the anthology direction and that they explore different stories that can be told on Halloween night. So that's my thoughts on Halloween Ends. I know that I'm in the minority here. I know a lot of people did not like this movie, and I totally get it. Frankly, I think this whole new trilogy has just kind of been a dumpster fire from the start, so we'll see where they go with it next. Let me know what you thought of Halloween Ends in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.